Thank you, band. Did I or didn't I tell you he was a truly inspiring man? Well, talking about inspiration, we just started because it is a pleasure to introduce the last guest of today. He's also a very inspirational man. And it is a pleasure to introduce him first and foremost because he's a charming, lovely, good man and a dear friend to South Summit. Secondly, he's a very knowledgeable person. Please go onto the internet to check his CV. He's a doctor by profession, an expert in creativity, motivation, leadership. He's a writer, he's a lecturer, he's everything you can imagine. And he's back. It's a tradition now in South Summit to have him every year. We're delighted and thrilled to have him back here because every time he comes with a present. He's going to share with us a guided mindfulness session so we can take a break of a whole busy day, relax, and enjoy. Do you want to take a break? Do you know who he is? Of course you do. We all know him and love him. He's the lovely, gorgeous Dr. Mario Alonso.
Good afternoon to all of you, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Maria. Thank you to all the organizers for inviting me again. Let me check something. Any of you have ever heard the word mindfulness before, so that I have an idea? Okay. Any of you have already practiced at least once a mindfulness session? Okay. What we're going to do is the following thing. First, I will share with you how mindfulness works, because it's a very counterintuitive kind of approach, and we will use the brain, and we will see how it is very effective for leaders to foster innovation and creativity in their companies, how it's very, very useful to reduce our reactivity when we have to deal with very complex challenges in life. And later on, after we go through this scientific part, we will go through a practice which is called the mountain. It's one of the most amazing practices I've ever learned in my life because it is captured by the unconscious mind. And when we come across an obstacle, when we really face a difficult challenge, there is something within us that in some way reminds this exercise and allows us to remain, grounded into the earth with a posture of balance, with a sense of true presence. So let's start with, I don't think the clicker is working. I don't know if you hear me. Anyway, while they, yeah, okay. I was a couple of days ago in Oxford, and I had a chance of, being with very relevant people who were discussing about artificial intelligence and, the tendencies of the world, where are we going? And probably you are aware of how much confusion this is creating. We don't know how many people will lose jobs. We don't know if robots will overcome, all the activities that belong to we humans. But the matter of the fact is that there's nobody who has a crystal ball. There's nobody who really can predict the future. But it's very important to read well the present. Because if we are really aware of what's going on, we can see some clues and say, oh, I can see that tendency. I can see that bias. This is interesting because I can anticipate the future, not worrying about the future, but anticipating the future. So this is one of the first thoughts that I want to share with you. The best way to predict the future is to read accurately the present. So mindfulness can be explained in a very simple way. It's being aware of what is happening right now and right here. overcoming the tendency of the mind to go to the past or to the future. Because, as you already know, when we go to the past, usually it's to regret something that we did or to regret something that we didn't do. When we go to the future, usually it's not to anticipate the future, but to worry about the future. We start to suffer now for something that hasn't happened yet. So, is there any approach that allows us to remain here, in the here and now, so that we can be aware of what's going on, what's moving? I apologize because it's in Spanish. It's from my book, and it's only in Spanish for the moment. But let me share with you something. There is a network in the brain. It's on the left side of the screen. It's the default network, and we are used to this kind of network. When we are driving our car, most of the time we're in autopilot. We are not paying attention to the driving itself. We are lost in our thoughts, in our images, in our feelings, in our body sensations. And we thought that this kind of circuit didn't produce any kind of problem, that was natural, that was something normal. But now we know that that's not the case. The default network is very, very dangerous for one reason. First, because the chances of having a car crash are much higher. But on the other hand, there is something extremely important. On the right side of the screen, on your right side, it's on my left side, on your right side, you see another circuit. This circuit is the one that you need for your projects, for your startups, to negotiate, to make good decisions, to take proper actions, to be effective in what you do, to be creative, to be innovative. But the kind of energy that is needed to nurture that circuit is stolen by the other circuit. So what we have seen with the approach mindfulness, using mindfulness, is when we start learning this kind of technique, this kind of approach, is more than a technique, is an approach. The circuit on the left, the default network, shuts off. And the other circuits start to work properly. This is one of the reasons why mindfulness is so important in people who are working in very precise jobs, like surgeons, like pilots, like car racing pilots, like people who play golf in very important tournaments, because the importance of being in the moment, being absolutely aware, not allowing ourselves to be hijacked by those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions, is absolutely essential. But it's also important for you, because you need to see some possibilities in your business, some approaches that you might have not ever tried yet. So if we keep exploring mindfulness, I think there is something that we need to acknowledge, that we live in a world of uncertainty. I had the chance of spending some time in Silicon Valley, and I visited some, those very well-known companies. And I remember in one of those companies, I asked one of the engineers, "Where's the world going?" And he told me, we don't have the slightest idea. So I had the chance of being with some Nobel Prizes recently who are in this field, and Nobel laureates, and they really didn't have an idea. Nobody really has an idea, because artificial intelligence, robotics are advancing so fast. But the thing is that for us, it's uncertainty. So the key message is the following one. When we come across uncertainty, we can have the sense that we don't have any control. So I'm in the midst of a new world. This is an unknown world for me. It's a world of uncertainty. Everything is changing. Nobody has a crystal ball. I don't know where the world is going. So I feel that I don't have any control. I cannot do anything. I'm at the mercy of some external circumstances. I don't have any control. If we allow ourselves to have that sense, there is no question that something in our body, in our mind, in our brain will happen, which is this, a reaction. Fight, we get aggressive, we get irritated, we start to be upset. I don't want that. This is very bad. How I'm going to survive? I don't have the necessary skills, and so on and so forth. Fly. You know, I don't want to know anything about this. I don't want to get anything. No. This is not something that is good for me. Or freeze. We choke. We lose all kind of inner power. And this is created by the mind. There is no question of that. It is created by the mind. The mind has the sense that she or it doesn't have any control over the external circumstances. But if we create by any approach a certain sense of control, even if I can control my breathing, so simple as that, then the brain reacts in a different fashion. Because now there is not a complete loss of control. Now I have a sense that at least I control something, and that's enough. Because then the brain starts to explore, try to find ways to grow and evolve. It's natural in us. You see, our start was very humble 2.5 million years ago, and we came across very challenging circumstances. A drought, lack of food, we were small, we didn't have sophisticated weapons. But in some way, even not having enough resources, we thought at that time very far, long away, we thought that we had some kind of control. And then we started to explore, we started to learn, we started to grow and evolve. And thanks to those little, young people so many years ago, we are here being together, exploring together the mind and the possibilities of the mind. This is probably one of the most important laws that I've ever come across in my life. It was developed and discovered by two scientists from Harvard Medical School in 1908, Professor Yorkis and Professor Dodson, and they discovered the relationship between pressure and performance. As entrepreneurs, as leaders, as people who want not only to adapt, but also to thrive, you need to have an amazing performance. You need to be creative, you need to be innovative, you need to be aware, to be attentive, to make good decisions, to take proper actions. So we need a certain amount of pressure. And if you look on the screen, we need that pressure to have a high performance. But when we go beyond that level of pressure, as you can see, the performance goes down. It means that no matter how smart you are, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much experience you have, when that inner pressure reaches a certain level, your creativity, your capacity to innovate, your capacity to lead drops. Now we know what happens in the brain. This is caused by the brain, by the root of the problem is not in the brain, it's in the mind. Because on the right side of the curve, on your right side, there is a nucleus in the middle of the brain called the amygdala, and when we have the idea, we have the feeling that we have no control at all in an unknown and uncertain world, the amygdala goes off, and the amygdala creates so much inner pressure that the performance drops, because we feel that we are in danger, and the blood that should go to the brain goes to the muscles. Doesn't make any sense, but the mind sometimes works in this very strange fashion. But when we believe that although it's an uncertain and unknown world, we have some resources, we can control something, anything, just like our breathing, just like some sensations of the body. It's surprising because there's a shift in the blood flow in the brain. And that part that we need to explore, to grow, and to thrive, which is the prefrontal cortex, goes off. And now then we become much more creative, then we become much more alive. So mindfulness is an approach, of course it's not the only approach, it's an approach that helps us move in the curve. When we are hijacked by the amygdala, when we are on the left side of the curve, low performance, a drop in our cognitive capacities, difficult at the time of learning something new. Mindfulness allows us to switch off the amygdala and ignite the prefrontal cortex. Why leadership is so important? Because leadership is what creates the conditions for, entrepreneurship and innovation. When we have good leaders, when we are inspired by people who believe in a compelling vision, who really are empathic, who are assertive but are not harsh, then we feel that we belong. We feel that they are counting on us, and we give our best. So leadership creates the condition that are necessary for entrepreneurship and innovation. So we shouldn't, from my point of view, we shouldn't consider innovation in an isolated way, but in connection with leadership. You have good leadership, you have entrepreneurship, and you have innovation. So some things about leadership, and this has been shown in many, many studies. The capacity to skillfully manage one's own emotions is a vital leadership competence. I mean, I'm a surgeon. Some of you know that. I practiced surgery for 26 years. And as you can imagine, especially when I had to take care of patients in a very, very complex situations after a terrorist attack or a gunshot or a car crash, we couldn't perform all kind of x-rays or blood tests because, that patient was dying. We have to do, very few tests and take that person if that person shows some kind of signs, we have to take that person to the OR, to the operating room, and perform an operation at least to see what's going on there. But imagine a surgeon who is unable to handle his or her own emotions. Not only he will go to the left side of the curve and lose creativity, lose the capacity to make good decisions, to analyze the problem in a deep way, it will also block the whole team because the team is counting on him, is counting on her. And if that person is not able to control the emotions, it's very difficult that this person is really fulfilling his or her role as a leader. And the second element, which I think is very important, and as I told you before, it has been shown in a lot of studies, teams with leaders in a positive mood exhibit more coordination and have a better performance than groups with leaders in a negative mood. We live in a world of possibilities. We have to be very careful not to make this world of possibilities a world of threats, a world of dangers. Because if we buy into that idea, the brain will buy into that idea too. And instead of growing, learning, exploring, thriving, we will be in a mode of fighting, flying, or freezing, which is not very good to adapt to a new world. So, what is the relationship between mindfulness and leadership? Mindfulness changes physically the brain. And not only mindfulness changes physically the brain, because It helps people to be less reactive, more purposeful in their thoughts and action, better leaders. By learning to step out of the innate human tendency to run on automatic pilot, leaders can deliberately create new options for action. So it's like a tool in your toolbox. It's like an approach that you can cultivate, that you can train to be less reactive when you are dealing with a difficult challenge, when you are facing failure, so that instead of going to the left side of the curve and feel hopeless and helpless, you use this approach to remain in the right side of the Yorkis-Dodson curve. So you look at the failure and you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently the next time? It seems to be very simple, but it has a very, very impressive impact. Neuroplasticity has been shown without any question. And people who have practiced mindfulness for 20 minutes, 5 days a week, for 4 months, if you take them to a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, you can see that the amygdala, that part of the brain that hijacks us, that makes us feel fearful or be enraged when we are facing something challenging, the size of the amygdala is reduced, and the thickness of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which controls that amygdala, is increased. So there's no, it can be measured very accurately. So there's no question that mindfulness, although has an impact in the mind, also creates a change in the physical structure of the brain. As a physician, for me, it's very important to highlight the idea that leaders not only foster creativity, innovation, good decisions, learning from failure in the team. A leader must care about his people. A leader must care about her people. And we know now that this wandering mind, this amygdala hijack, is very, very bad for our health. This is the reason why most of the research in the mindfulness field has been done in hospitals in the United States. Harvard Medical School, Massachusetts University, Stanford University, and so on and so forth. On your left, you have the sympathetic nervous system over there, and on your right, you have the parasympathetic nervous system. Both of them should be in balance. But when we think that we don't have any control, the sympathetic nervous system starts to dominate. The problem is that when the sympathetic nervous system starts to dominate, the body starts to suffer. So, is there any approach that can help to return to the natural balance so that the parasympathetic nervous system starts to, increase its function and both of them reach a balance? Yes. Mindfulness has been shown to increase the working of the parasympathetic nervous system when we have lost the natural balance. And on the bottom of the screen, you can see like a red, a round shape. It's a lymphocyte. It's part of the immune system. The parasympathetic nervous system is extremely important at the time of defending, protecting ourselves against bacteria, viruses, and tumors. And lymphocytes are like our army. Well, the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system, is one of the main elements that improve the working of lymphocytes. So, as you can see, everything is connected. In our mind, most of the things are separated, but in reality, they are deeply connected. So I was thinking about what I could offer you today that gave you a sense of control, so that when you come across any difficult challenge, you don't enter into that mode of fight, fly, or freeze. But there is something in your subconscious mind that takes this exercise and allows you to remain firm, deeply grounded into the earth. There are different exercises. For me, the favorite one is this. It's sitting like a mountain. I want to share it with you with the wish that it truly helps you when you have to deal with challenges, when you have to deal with obstacles in your life. So I've written it because otherwise I won't follow track of the time, and it's the way to do it for me, because otherwise it can take very long, and I don't have that time. So please sit comfortably, and cross the legs, okay? With your spine straight, without a strain. It's not like that, it's straight, without strain. Your hands on your thighs. If you have low blood pressure, baja presión arterial, you put your hands, the palm of your hands, upwards, las manos hacia arriba, las palmas si hay baja presión arterial, okay? And please allow you to close your eyes gently. You don't have to force your eyes to be closed. You just close them gently, okay? This is called sitting like a mountain. It has some music. Allow yourself to sit comfortably with the spine straight, without strain. Feel your body in contact with the chair and your feet touching the ground. And bring to your mind any mountain that you have seen, any mountain that you like. It doesn't matter if you know this mountain because you have visited it or because you have seen on a picture or on a painting. Just bring that mountain to your mind. Feel that firmness. Experience the uprightness of the upper body, the balance of the neck and the balance of the head. A mountain firmly rooted into the ground and rising up towards the sky. Feel the solid base in your sitting posture, like the base of a mountain, firmly grounded into the earth. Your head being the peak of the mountain, and the shoulders and arms and hands the slopes. Stable and upright, rooted and elevated. Feeling these qualities that are reflected in your posture, your firmness. Feeling the body in its entirety as if it were a mountain. And allow this reflection of the mountain to be carried more deeply. Mountains, while stable and upright, encounter constant change. Day turns to night. The seasons come with all of their elements, the warmth of the summer, vibrant colors and fallen leaves in autumn, fierce winds in winter, blossoming in spring, constant change. But the mountain remains stable, upright. The mountain reflects its own dignity, its own stability. How true is this in our own lives? Moment to moment and year to year, we encounter constant change. Changes in our health, in our body, in our work, in our relationships. We experience moments of great beauty and joy. And we also experience moments of fierce storms with winds of extreme velocity. We may encounter the judgments of others and also their praise. We rest in the stability of presence. Awareness is receptive and unchanging, receiving all multitude of changes, but not changing itself. This capacity to be awake, aware, offers us both groundedness to firmly meet what comes our way, and also inspires us to know that while the changes are important and must be met, who we are is deeper and vaster than any change might define us as. Resting now in what is already here within you, the awareness that is beyond measure, your true nature. Mountains are often appreciated as majestic, representing in some way the mystery and magnitude of life. So you sit now, honoring the mystery of your life, honoring your own magnificence. Now bring your attention, please, to your breathing, and perhaps taking a few deep breaths, start to open your eyes. Come back to this room completely oriented in time and in space. So as you open your eyes, I would ask from you, please, to start stretching a little bit. Stretch a little bit. Perfect. So take-home values. Authentic leadership can be a potent force to improve health, well-being, and high performance in teams and organizations. Mindfulness offers a methodology for enhancing the health, well-being, and effectiveness of leaders as they face challenging conditions. Thank you so much. Thank you.
To Dr. Mario Alonso Puig. Okay, everybody, how was the day? Long, fantastic, some energetic women here at the front. The good news is that we finished today. We actually listened, we worked, we relaxed a bit, and now, what comes now? We party! So, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock here, coffee, and then we start our second day at South Summit 2018. Thank you very much. And now we sing. Woo! ¿Puedo? Yo solo me sé el estribillo. Message in a bottle. 1, 2, 3, 4. I rehearsed fast since I wrote my note, but I don't know what's right from the start. Only hope can keep me together. Love can mend your life and love can break your heart. I send an SOS to the world. I send an SOS to the world. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone. Message in a bottle. Message in a bottle. Dale, ella canta mejor que yo. Message in a bottle. Venga, sube María. María, súbete.